Hey guys, my name is Scoby. Today I'm going to be showing you how to add text to a video track in Adobe Premiere Pro. This is going to be a nice, quick and easy tutorial. I'm going to be showing you step by step how to do everything. On screen right now you can see a quick video track I made earlier with some text on it. Let's jump right into this. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is opening up Adobe Premiere Pro, and you're going to open up whatever video track you want. In this case I have this example video track of a drone on top of a forest. It's got some nice colors, it's a nice slow zoom, and I thought one thing we could add to this video was adding some text to make it stand out a little bit more. So the first thing we're going to be doing to add text to your video track in Premiere Pro is opening up your Tools panel. If you can't find this, simply come up to Window and click on Tools. And then what we're going to be looking for is the T or Type tool. And we're going to be clicking this open. And you're going to notice at first nothing is going to happen until we hover over our video preview. And here we can do one of two things to create text. The first thing we can do is just a single left click, which is going to open up this one box where we can type and text will fill as we start to type. The second thing we can do is click and draw a box where we can keep our text inside this container. So you can see if I start to type text, it'll be stuck inside this container. Whereas if I use the first original text, I can continually type and it will continue to stretch and create the container as I continue to type. Now, depending on what the goal of your text is here, both of these different methods have different advantages. So the top one will constantly fill and you can set up as much text as you want, but you're kind of limited on how you can center things and set things to the left or right. Whereas the bottom version of this offers a bit more control. Everything is going to be kept inside this box. So depending on what you want to do is how you will set this up. So as I scroll through my timeline, you're going to see the text looks okay so far, but you may notice when you get to a certain point in your video track, the text may disappear. And that's because if we come down to our timeline, we can see the current video track is going to be determined on where you actually start by entering the text, and we'll add it for about 4 to 5 seconds after that. To extend or decrease the text duration, what we can do is come to either end of our video track and we can stretch or reduce the size to make the text as long or as short on the video track as we need to. In this case, what I'm going to be doing is stretching it to the full length of the video track so my text will show up for all points during the video. What I'm going to be doing is coming back to the very start of our timeline just so we can keep things simple, and we're going to be going back to focusing on our text. The first thing we're going to need to do is select our text track on our timeline. So what we're going to do is have to come down to our timeline and we're going to select the text track that we just created. You'll notice it'll be a slightly different color than your video tracks, and that's what we're going to be looking for. Now when we click this open, we're going to be going to our effects control panel so we can actually adjust and edit this text. If you can't find this, simply come up to Window and click on Effect Controls. And here's where we're going to be able to see all of our texts created and all of the settings for our texts. So you may be wondering, how do I see my multi-text layer? As you can see, we currently have 2 text layers on our timeline, but we only had 1 text layer on our actual track. How we can check this is by coming down to the very bottom of our effects controls, or in this case what I'm going to be doing is closing these 2 tabs, that we can see both of our text layers are actually nested inside of this one layer. Now this is actually quite a nice thing compared to the old way Premiere Pro used to do it, where each was kind of its own video track. So it adds a little bit more flexibility here, and we can also still control them really independently. We can hide the layers if needed, and we can do a couple things inside of our tracks. So what I'm going to be doing from this case is deleting my first text layer as I don't really need it for the moment. And we're going to be focusing on editing and showing some cool things with our second text layer. So one of the first things we need to do to affect the current text is click on and select all of the text currently so we can edit the actual text rather than editing new text that we're going to start entering. So the first thing we can do here is change the font type for this. We can click down this little option and we can see all the fonts currently installed on our computer. So in this case, I'm just going to be using the Molot font, as this is the font I use for most of my videos and thumbnails. And this is the font I enjoy the most. You can see our font changes really easily. Underneath this, we're going to get some more options of your font styling depending on the font type you're using. In this case, I only have regular, but other options will show up here like bold, semi-bold, etc. To the right of this, we can change the font sizing. But you see, as I scale up and down, it doesn't actually do anything because I need to go back and highlight my font for this to actually work. So once you highlight your font, then everything will start to come into effect. Underneath here, we then have some options to left align text, center align text, and right align text. And that's one of the advantages of the box. Like I said previously, everything is going to be aligned inside this box rather than on an open empty space. So we've got a lot of our normal text editing options here. We've got the kerning, the tracking, a couple different things. So you really have all the basic text editing options. But down below here is what we're looking for is the appearance tab, where we get to see the fill, the stroke, and the shadow. In this case, I already have a small shadow enabled. You can see it just adds a little bit of sharpness to the text and just gives it a bit more texture and out-poppiness, which is really cool. And I'm not sure out-poppiness is even a real word, to be honest. But if we scroll down even further on this, we're going to notice our transform tab, where we get all of the basic kind of editing options for Premiere Pro, the position, we get the scale, the rotation, and we can even set up keyframes here if you want to set up animations, if you want to track your text or you want to do other things. You can set up all of that stuff really easily here, and everything is linked nicely inside this one text layer inside our Premiere Pro. And it's pretty much as easy as that to add text in Premiere Pro. Now, of course, you can do some more things if you want to do some more effects. One thing I would recommend doing is experimenting around with the opacity and blending mode. Depending on where your text is and what the track is in the background, you can really create some cool effects. So in this case, what I recommend doing is selecting the blend mode and then just covering and scrolling down through this. And you can see a couple different blending modes, as you can see with the text in the background. And when we experiment around with the blending mode, we can create some really cool effects. Once you start doing these things, don't be afraid to change the color of your text, and you can really play around with negative space on your text. Experimenting with stroke here can also add some cool effects. So really play around with your text to see what works for you. Anyway guys, it's as easy as that to add text to your video track in Adobe Premiere Pro. If you guys enjoyed this tutorial, be sure to drop a like. Subscribe if you're new, check out the other videos on the channel. Until next time guys, as always, keep it saucy. Peace.